Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Dave Uester. I'm president of the Managed Service Provider Association of America. Today, we are gathered and here with Jake Charen. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dave?
I can't complain. So today is an exciting day. We have part 2 of this series that you are putting on with 2 other guests of ours, which we'll bring on in a second. Very quickly, before we go and introduce them, give us a very high-level background of what part 1 was all about.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining on today, whether you are just joining for the first time or if you're making it for part 2, we appreciate you being here. So part 1 of this conversation was diving into all the different topics regarding marketing as an MSP. It's tough to nail down sometimes on the correct business that you should go after, who you should be working with, and what type of clients really make you happiest to work with and to help out with their managed service provider services. So today I'll be joined by Joe Rojas of Start Grow Manage and Tim Fitzpatrick of Rialto Marketing. And again, my name is Jake Charen of Lakeside Insurance, and we're excited to have you all here today.
Awesome, Jake. Well, how about we jump straight into it? Let's bring on Tim, and you guys can introduce Tim.
Absolutely. Thanks for jumping on again, Tim. Why don't you give everybody a quick intro about yourself, about what you do, and kind of go into what we're going to be talking about today once we get Joe on the call.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for having me back for part 2 here. So like you said, I'm Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing. I am a marketing consultant, advisor, and outsourced marketing executive. So I help MSPs build or update and then manage their marketing engine so they can get where they want to go faster. So in a nutshell, I focus on marketing strategy, planning, and leadership. You got to have all 3 of those in alignment if you want your marketing engine to be cranking. So excited to be back and excited to jump into this.
Perfect. Thanks. Happy to have you here.
Hey,
Joe, how's it going?
What's up? What's going on?
Not much. We're excited to have you. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about you, about Start Grow Manage, and we'll kind of jump into it here.
Sure. My name is Joe Rojas, and what I do is help MSPs do 3 things. I help them narrow, right? So narrow, who are they going to go service so that they can get really, really focused. And then once you narrow, then you can simplify. And then when you have a simplified solution, it's easy to deliver because you understand who you're delivering for, what's a problem that you're solving, that you don't have to hire all those super expensive people. You can hire less qualified people because you've got a process-centric business, not a person-centric business, right? When you hire those expensive people, they come with some habits and all that stuff that you have to deal with. And then the third thing that I help them do is communicate, right? So they can communicate better. So how do you communicate your message? So you have to narrow and then simplify, and then you have to acquire customers. And how you acquire customers is that you get that messaging of what's the problem you're solving for whom straight, and you get it out there in the world. So that's me, Jake.
Well, thanks for that, Joe. Now let's bring Tim back on and let's kind of get into it. So I know that you both have some fantastic value props. And again, like it says in the bottom, please ask any questions so that we can get them here live. We'd like to slow down the conversation. It's always better when we get to involve people. But before we kind of jump into it, like I said, you both have really strong value props. You told a little bit about who you are, about your business. But let's start with Tim. How did you get into this world? And let's just kind of go with just a quick 30,000 overview of how you became a marketing consultant for MSPs so they kind of understand what that background is, how you've helped businesses before, and really what you're looking to do.
Yeah, so I'll make it super brief. So I started my professional career in wholesale distribution. We were selling home theater equipment to custom installers. And when I got involved in marketing, My path in marketing has been very winding. It took me a while to figure out, one, what I was great at, but two, what I really enjoyed doing. And about a year and a half ago, I met somebody who was in the MSP space, was like, hey, you need to look at MSPs. And so I started to dig into the space, and the MSPs remind me of contractors we were selling through distribution. And that's why I got into it. Tech people, great with the tech, but the business side of it, the marketing, the sales is challenging because it's not, their main area of expertise. And so that's why I jumped into space and what I'm doing today.
Perfect. Well, thanks for that. And Joe, let's hear a little bit about you. I know some of your background, but I'm not sure the audience does.
So, I started off in the military is where I got all my technical training. And then like many MSPs, after I worked for the DoD for a while, then I worked on biomedical engineering. Then I ended up at a national MSP. And then I said, I'm going to open my own MSP. And then I did, but I didn't make the transition for a while from being a technician to being a business owner. And so the reason why I started this business is to help people make that transition, because when you're a technician, you're very, very good, like what Tim just said, at solving problems. And I was awesome at solving problems, but I was terrible at business. So what I had to do was make this mind shift, right? And so why I got into this particular business is because I saw so many MSPs that were my friends suffering, right? Working 110, 120 hour weeks, not seeing their family, not doing the things that they want. And worst of all, even with all that, not making enough money. And so what got me excited about this was like, well, how do we help them make more money? And then, we brought in some partners that helped us professionalize our model, and have two really amazing business partners that helped me do that. They have MBAs and all the fancy stuff that really helped us professionalize a model and bring it out into the world so that they can do those things. And that's kind of how I ended up doing what I'm doing. And for the last, few years, that's what we've been doing, is helping them grow.
Perfect. Well, I think the audience, obviously, you can hear that both of these guys are here to help. We can't all wear every single hat in our business. Marketing is one of these worlds that is just confusing. People think the more money that I put in, the more outputs I'm going to get out of it. And while that may be the case if you're doing it strategically, that's not the case if you're not doing it kind of thoughtfully. And so that'll kind of jump us into this first question that's a bit broad, but kind of talking about awareness, engagement, conversion. So how do you value these three things, and what do you think is most important for an MSP? And I know, Joe, I know you talk about narrowing, and Tim, I know you have your own ideologies as well, but I guess just starting from the awareness and engagement part of that, and then we can jump into conversion later. What's kind of your thought process from an MSP perspective on what they should or maybe even shouldn't be doing?
You want to go first, Tim?
Go ahead, Joe. I'll follow. How's
right?
that?
So that's fine. So the question that you asked is what's most important, right? It depends on where you are. It depends on where you are in the business life cycle. It depends on, like, if you've narrowed already, then creating awareness is the most important thing, right? So creating that awareness and getting people in. But if you're already narrowed and you already have lots of awareness, then it's really that engagement. How do I get people to interact with me, right? So depending on where you are on the life cycle of your stuff. So now let's pretend, so that I could answer your question, Jake, that it's somebody who hasn't narrowed yet, right? Then the thing that you want to do is first decide, okay, who do I want to work with? Whose problem do I want to solve? And then once you figure out how to solve that problem, how you create awareness is you go into that ecosystem of people that you're solving a problem for. Let's pretend is pick a vertical, Tim, any vertical.
Personal injury attorneys.
It's personal injury attorneys. So let's pretend it's personal injury attorneys. Now you want to attend their conferences. You want to write blog posts about them. You want to have all your content be around the things that personal injury attorneys are searching for, right? And that's how you start. That's the first thing you have to do. You have to make that audience aware that you exist. And then you can move through the rest of the cycle. you can't create awareness if you're trying to be the broad. Well, you can. I'll say it this way, right? If you've got $200,000-$300,000 a month to spend, you can absolutely be broad as you want and create awareness, right? Because you can make enough noise. But if you don't have that kind of money, then you have to narrow. So I'll stop there and kind of see what Tim thinks.
Yeah, no, I think that was great. Let's hear kind of what your thought process is, Tim.
Yeah. Thank you for starting that off, because I think Joe's spot on, right? They're all important, but depending on where you are is going to determine where you're going to be focusing. Now, at the same time, just because, let's say, I'm focusing on awareness, that doesn't mean that I'm not doing things or focusing on anything past that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not, you're going to have a difficult time moving somebody from awareness through the rest of the customer journey.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be cognizant and aware of all of them.
Yeah.
But where you're going to be putting your most of your focus is going to depend on where you are in your business. But
yeah,
first and foremost, if people aren't aware that you exist, then you're just the best kept secret out there. So we have to get our message out there and in front of people so that they become aware of us and then want to further engage with what we're doing. Right. But they got to have awareness first. And I think Joe is spot on when he talks about narrowing. Narrowing can be really difficult for MSPs, but unless you have a huge budget, it's impossible to target broadly. And the other thing that I would say too is, even if you look at like a large company, look at, Amazon or Apple, it may appear that they're targeting broadly, but I think if you dig below the surface, their individual marketing campaigns are very targeted. So even they're not broadcasting the same message to a incredibly wide audience. The narrower the message, the more specific it is, the higher likelihood it's going to resonate with those people you intend to attract.
Yeah. And what Apple is, if you remember back the old commercials with Apple, they had the PC. Remember PC and Apple? They used to talk to each other. You could tell exactly who they were targeting based on the way those two people looked. Even if you didn't turn on the volume, you could look at those two people and you knew who the Apple market was just by seeing the individual, right? And that's that's how targeted they are. You think they're not, but they really are. Spot on, Tim.
But, I also think too, when you look at larger companies, sometimes they may break some of the more traditional or fundamental principles, but the larger you get, the more latitude you have to actually break those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, when we're small, when we're a smaller business, it's much, much more challenging for us to get away with breaking those principles.
Yeah, because we don't have the money to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
we don't have the momentum, right? And the mass,
the
critical mass that somebody like an Amazon or an Apple or whoever it may be, take your pick. You just don't have that critical mass.
No, I agree with that. We have a question in the chat, but I'm going to ask them to specify it a bit more. And I kind of want to continue to piggyback on the awareness, engagement, but really the narrowing. So if you're an MSP that's new, let's say 6 to 12 months, and you're a startup, and like you just talked about, Joe, you got to make some money. What do you do from a narrowing perspective when you may not necessarily get to pick who your clients are? If you have a contract with a healthcare firm, but you're going after the personal injury attorneys, or
I know, but
you want to work with engineers, but you have a big contract potentially with a construction company. How do you view from that startup perspective what they should, or again, I'll say it, shouldn't be doing in that situation in order to narrow properly and what's going to help their business?
Good. So let's talk about that, right? So you've got a couple of choices. And I'll talk about it from two different perspectives, Jake. The first perspective is, I don't have any clients yet.
Yeah, let's start there.
So if I don't have any clients yet, it's easy. I just need to pick up market. I need to pick up market and then go get the first one and then go get the next one, then go get the next one, and then go get the next one, right? Now, if I'm already in business and I already have a big healthcare client, right, that I'm servicing, why would I go after personal injury lawyers? I just go get another one of the same one that I already got. And then another one, and then another one. And it turns out that I hate them. I hate them. I hate that client. Really hate working with them. They're terrible. No problem. Go do $1 million in business, sell your MSP, and start another one. That's what I did with my first one. My first one, I started narrowing, and I narrowed it into a particular vertical. And then I discovered that I really didn't like those people. Like, I really didn't like working with them. And I was like, ooh, I really don't like these people. And then I sold it. I sold the MSP, took the money, and started another MSP and found somebody that I like working with. And then I work with them. But the thing is that you have to make money. The whole reason why you start an MSP is to make money. I know you want to fix problems, and I know you think that you can be agnostic and you can fix all the problems for everybody. But the narrower you get, the faster you can go, because you can build systems and processes, and you can hire unskilled people to do the work. And you can't do that when you're trying to go across 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 different verticals. You need highly skilled people because they need to be able to solve any kind of problem. But if you build a process-centric rather than a person-centric business, then you don't need super highly skilled. You need people that have moderate skills. And then you build a process around it, and you just keep adding more people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I like that. And what's kind of your opinion, Tim? And maybe not starting from scratch, but maybe once you've already been working for 2 to 3 years, what do you feel that they should do?
Yeah, there's one thing I want to pull out of what Joe said, which is you focus and you don't like them. This is not set in stone. Like, none of these decisions are set in stone. So I think a lot of people kind of get hung up on, well, once I commit, like, that's it. No, that's not it. I mean, it's your business, right? You can make your own business rules and decisions. And if you don't want to work with them anymore, well, then you can shift. Yeah. So I think it's okay to do that. But I think what we're both saying is you got to make a choice in the beginning, because it's not going to make it easy, but it is going to make it simpler. Right? So it's still going to take work, but it's going to be a lot more effective if you can narrow. Now, to answer your question, and Joe's already started touching on this, if I've been in business for 2 or 3 years, I've got clients that I'm already working with, that's always where I recommend people start, is look at that existing client base. And I call them the 3 power questions. Like, who do you love working with? Who's profitable? And who are you getting great results and outcomes for? Those people, then you can start to look at, hey, which of my clients check all 3 of these boxes? And the ones that check all 3 of those boxes are where you start to look for some opportunities to start to focus. Who are the people that are in this group? What do they look like? You know, are they in specific industries? Or, you know, are they specific types of people, right? Specific contacts at those companies? What's the data telling us? And then we can start to hone in on, oh, you know what? Geez, like, half of my clients are in the healthcare space, or they're personal injury attorneys, whatever it may be. Then you can go, okay, great. We now have the existing these clients. We like them. If you like them, odds are they're going to like you as well. We're making money off of them. We're getting great outcomes for them. Well, then you can leverage that existing client base, right? You can get testimonials. You can get case studies, so that when you start to go focus on that market, you've got some social proof. And when you focus, it becomes much, much easier to identify where the heck they are. We're not going to a small business, networking event hoping there's going to be a personal injury attorney there. We're going to the local bar association, monthly meeting. They're going to be there.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's exactly where they're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're putting a line out where you know exactly they're going to be, rather than casting this wide net, hoping that you're going to catch some type of fish. So it's, again, this is not a perfect process, but it's something that you got to go through, make choices, and then start to take action. And as we take action, we start to learn from those actions, and we can make adjustments and course corrections along the way.
Right. No, I think those are all great points, and it brings up a good question that I was going to ask, similar to what we just received from the audience. So you guys are both talking about focusing in on a sector, CPAs, attorneys, healthcare, engineering, construction, whatever it might be. Have you seen in your work, or do you feel that there's technically a field that is saturated within the MSP channel?
Oh yeah, because there's only 33 million small businesses in the US, and there's only 40,000 MSPs. Do the math. No, there's nothing. I don't care what you pick. You can pick underwater basket weavers. You're going to get exactly $2 to $3 to $4 million worth of business from whatever vertical you pick, because I don't care. And by the way, out of the 40,000 MSPs, 30% claim to be specialized. We did a study. You can download the paper from our website that shows that out of the 30% that claim to be specialized is really only 10% that are actually specialized. And out of the 10% that are specialized, most of them don't have custom websites and content created for their verticals. They just say it.
Yeah.
So the reality is that out of that 40,000, there's probably a few hundred that are specialized.
Here's the other thing I would add to that. And thank you for those stats, because that's super interesting. Because look, even if there are other MSPs that are competing within a specific vertical, how big is that vertical? Most MSPs are not looking for hundreds of new clients each year.
No. You know how many they need each year? 20 to 40 to make an extra $1 million in revenue. 20 to 40 clients they need to make an extra $1 million in revenue. So you take a vertical like medical, which is a lot of people say that they're focused on medical. But see, being focused on medical is too broad. I'm working with 2 different clients right now. One is focused on dermatologists. Find me another MSP that's focused on dermatologists. The other one is even better. He's focused on gastroenterologists. Right? Now, gastroenterologists and dermatologists happen to use different EHRs, electronic health records. They happen to have different levels of compliance within the practice that need to be followed. They happen to have different follow-up software. They happen to have a bunch of different things that if you learn that thing for the gastroenterologist or the ophthalmologist or you're different than anybody else, because you can say, I help gastroenterologists see more patients by streamlining their practice, rather than say, I fix technology, which nobody cares about. It's about the problem, the business problem that you solve for your client. You're an MSP to solve business problems for your clients, not to fix technology, not to protect their data, to solve a business problem that they have that involves protecting their data and making sure their technology works. But they have a business problem. And if you're not clear about that, in the next 10 years, you'll go the way of the dinosaur. That is the way it is. Tim, am I off on this?
No, I don't think so. I agree with you. Again, you're showing how when you narrow, your message can get much more specific. And the more specific we are, the higher likelihood it's going to resonate. And I think that's something that a lot of MSPs struggle with when it comes to messaging is, look, our message needs to focus on the problems our clients have and don't want and the results they want and don't have. And like you point out, they're not buying IT. Is a gastroenterologist really concerned about IT? They don't know the first freaking thing about it.
Can I interject?
What they know is the problem that their IT issues are, how it's manifesting in their business. And it's those problems that we need to talk about.
Can I interject here? So, Joe, sorry to take over here, but I don't necessarily agree with you.
I love that. I love that you disagree. Bring it, baby. Bring it.
MSPs, yes, I understand the marketing side. I understand the approach that you guys are discussing, right? But what happens with every single MSPs, they start becoming a solution for those tech problems that you said we're not there to fix, because we are there to fix it. And that is revenue for MSPs. Okay. So no matter how someone goes into this channel, into the adventure that they're going on, they will be fixing problems. That's the bottom line. The question that I have for both of you, maybe all three of you, is what happens when those problems start outweighing the solutions to streamline the process?
You got to get a little bit more specific.
Sure.
With
Yeah,
that.
we're going to need a little bit more specific on
that question.
that.
That question is like, you know.
So you have an MSP who's working with the chiropractor, whoever it is, right? And they're providing those solutions because they are, based on what you guys are saying, subject matter experts in that particular environment. Okay. What happens when that MSP starts becoming the person who's just fixing the problems in that environment all the time, and they're not finding the opportunities to actually implement solutions? So it's more of a break fix, and all they're doing is running around and putting out fires.
Well, that's a business problem. That's not a client acquisition problem, right? And Tim, do you want to jump at this first, and then I'll do it, or do you?
Yeah, you probably have a much. Here's, as an outsider looking in, right? I've never been an MSP, but if you're dealing with too many break fix problems within your clients, I think you got an implementation issue, right? The MSP systems are not where they need to be if the client is having too many issues with the tech system that you just put in. That's my view as an outsider looking in. Am I missing something, Joe?
You're not. But David, you can't drop a bomb and then run away. You got to come back now.
I agree. I want to hear what Joe's got to say, but I think it's what Joe and I talk about, and I talk about in my business. And I agree, this is more of a business problem, and it's a simple sentence of being proactive, not reactive. And I think that doing these things, and like Dave said, you're just fixing a problem. You're almost coming in like a plumber, right? It's like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to be spending? Go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I just think it's, again, we're focusing more on acquisition, on marketing. And you're right, it's also retainment of clients too, which we'll jump into in a bit, but narrowing down, picking a sector, getting so specific within healthcare that you're talking about some type of a gastro doctor that, to be honest, most people listening don't even know exactly what that doctor does. Hopefully they never have to find out, but maybe that's a specialty. But I think this goes back to some older thinking, because we're not just trying to solve new problems with old solutions. Like, where are you going to be spending your time? And Joe, I think I'm interested to hear what you have to say on this topic, because you're doing the marketing, like Tim said, but you're also coming in and managing and helping grow.
Yeah. So I like this question from Tina that just came in. How do they get more predictive and get ahead of the issues? How you get ahead of the issues, how you get more predictive, is you keep solving the same problem over and over again, right? When you solve the same problem over and over again, you know what's going to happen. You know, so you can systemize the solution of the problem. So what I wanted to say to David, who ran away, you ran away, David.
he threw gas on the fire and left.
He threw gas on the fire and left. He's like, "I'll throw some gas. I disagree with you, but I'm going to run away." Right? But here's the thing, right? When you are working with somebody different all the time, you are putting out fires and doing break fix, because every time you have to learn something new. So you can't create a predictable, reliable process, right? So I work with architects. My job, it was one of my 3 MSPs, I did architects. And my job was to reduce the number of tickets to 0, so that I got 0 tickets a week. And then I could go back to the architect and say, look, I've got 0 tickets because everything is working. And here's all the things that I'm making sure that I do, so you don't have any tickets. Right. And then if you, before you had me, you had 100 tickets a day, and your people were not working, and your productivity was down, and your projects were late, and you always had all these problems. all those problems went away because my job is to reduce your number of tickets to 0, right? So how you get ahead of problems is you solve the same problem over and over and over again. When you walk into a new dermatology practice, you go, oh, you're a new dermatologist. You must have XYZ problem. They go, yeah. And you go, oh, you must also have this other problem. Yeah. And that's causing this, this, and that. Yeah. You go, yeah, we help you solve that because we've solved that for 30 other dermatologists. Here's the solution. Here's how much it's going to cost you. It's going to cost me that much, but here's how much it's going to save you. And here's the growth that we're seeing happening. Because when you're targeted to an industry, you can then see what the growth is of clients that come work with you. You understand their business. You understand the problems, the business problems that they have. You understand how to solve them. You can't do that if you're doing it across 20 different verticals and you're like a 5-man shop. There's no way, because you can't customize anything. You can't cookie cutter anything. And you want cookie cutter. You want simple, like Tim said at the beginning. You narrow and simple. If you can't narrow and simple, then you can't go get clients. So you can't get in front of the things, which was what Tina was talking about.
You know, it's kind of, as you're talking, Joe, I'm thinking about like Formula One car or a NASCAR compared to a production vehicle that we buy, right? Those things take so much effort, so much work. They're constantly customizing, constantly adjusting. That's what it's like when you go in and reinvent the wheel on every single project versus I jump on a Honda Civic, I turn on the key, and it goes. Day in, day out. Yep, same thing over and over and over again. The business becomes much more predictable when you're doing things consistently over and over again.
Yeah. No, I like that. And I kind of want to wrap up that section and head into another kind of question that I wanted to bring up that a lot of MSPs are dealing with. But before we do that, I think that's something that I've been reading about and listening in podcasts from a lot of different entrepreneurs is perfect for this kind of topic that we're discussing. And what it's all about is, especially from a marketing perspective, customer retainment, any of these issues. What do you both feel about, and I feel like this is the fixing the problem, not getting ahead of things and dealing with it on the front end, is what does it look like as an MSP when you're working in your business, but you're not working on your business?
Say that again, Jake.
So from an MSP perspective, and this goes for all businesses because we all don't have enough time. We all move too quickly. We're all wearing too many hats. What does it mean for an MSP and what should they be doing rather than working in their business, but on their business?
Boy, I think there's multiple ways you could answer this, but the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about that is if you are stuck in your business, the first thing that you need to do is figure out how you can carve out time so that you can work on it, right? Because a lot of us as entrepreneurs, business owners, we're at 100%. If you are working at 100%, you will never have time to work on your business. So I think you got to start at the beginning and look at where am I spending my time right now? Audit your time. And once you audit your time, then you can start to identify where those time sucks are and what needs to be done to free up time so that you can then work on it. But if you don't get that out of the way first, you're never going to effectively work on it.
Thanks,
I love
Tim.
Tim. I love Tim so much. I do. I do. We have this tool you can download on the website called the prioritization matrix. And what it does is it lets you look at how you prioritize your time. How are you prioritizing your time right now? Right. And if you don't, you got to carve out about 8 to 10% of your time a month to work on your business. Right. So from the perspective of the MSP, Jake, the first thing to do is to notice that you're in what we call the entrepreneurial MSP spin cycle. You know, I need to get more clients. I got to get more clients. I get more clients. Oh crap. I got a new client. I got to really go and set them up. I got to set them up. I got to onboard them. I'm onboarding. Oh, I'm not getting any clients. My money stopped working. I got to get a client. And then you're in this spin cycle where you get a client and then, you know, you take your foot off the gas and then you're back on and you take your foot off the gas. And so if you don't first notice that you're in the spin cycle, you can't get out of it. So the first thing is awareness. You have to bring awareness to the fact that there is an in and on the business. We think that in the business is on the business, and it's not. So once you bring that awareness, then you start to define the business. If you don't define your business, then your business has you. You don't have it. And so that's really the place where you've got to go.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Jake? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, I think those were both fantastic answers. So I appreciate that. And we do have another question that came in from Tina. I'm not sure how much this is in line with some of the marketing topics we're discussing, but I guess I'll let you throw this at you both. How do MSPs embrace AI for machine reasoning learning about the causation with smaller amounts of data? They are too small for machine learning, which requires a lot of data.
Tina's asking a question above my pay grade. I would need a little bit more information to be able to answer that question.
I was going to say, we need to get a little bit more detailed on
I think I understand Tina's question a little bit is how do you embrace reasoning machine learning about the causation of technical problems inside of your ideal client or client that you're working with, right? Since you have such a small data set, you don't. You need tons of data for this. So you don't. You either become part of a data cooperative or you use other people's data. You can't, but then you want to use other people's data that's specific to your vertical. Now, if you want specific to your customers, you know, there is some AI software out there. I won't name names, but that can ingest your whole ecosystem, right? And then it can do some analytics on the data that you already have, but it's still insufficient data to be able to pull the kind of modeling that I think Tina's talking about here. So I think for that kind where it's too early for that kind of thing, you really should just look at the industry reports. If you look at the industry reports, like in iBiz, you can pull an industry report and see what that industry is doing, what the problems are in the industry. And based on that, you can build your solutions. I think that that's the answer to Tina's question, but that's different than marketing.
No wonder it's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
No worries.
You're frozen, Jake.
Well, I kind of want to bring in, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit here and touch on a different topic that I've been hearing a lot of different MSPs talk about, not just MSPs, but people every single day. So it's kind of talking about vendor harassment. So I'm sure everyone has their phone. You get a million spam calls a day, just like I do. You are blocking phone numbers left and right. I'm getting emails. I don't even know how they got my email or why I'm on this list. But what are you seeing from vendor harassment towards MSPs? Let's start there on that question. And then I'll be able to piggyback off of it with another. But what are you hearing and what are you seeing in the marketplace? And what do you recommend that some of these MSPs do when they are potentially being harassed by vendors, but maybe they might be a little bit interested, right? But once you just cross that certain threshold, I'm like, all right, it's a human experience. I want to be able to buy it. I don't want to be told I have to buy it.
I'm kind of an outsider looking in here because I've never been an MSP.
Yeah, but Tim, you're working with MSPs all the time. So let's kind of hear what.
But I don't necessarily talk a ton about the vendor side of it. But what I will say is, again, I'm a broken record. If you narrow, you don't need a broad vendor mix. You need a narrow vendor mix, right? And so when you narrow it, no matter how large you are or how small you are, you're putting your eggs, you're hitching your wagons to a smaller number of vendors. I think it's easier to nurture those relationships so that they become more meaningful. When you spread yourself too thin, you're bound to you got too many vendors. You're going to get harassed by any number.
He's back,
Here's the gasoline guy again.
Here he goes. He's going to throw gasoline.
So I hear what you're saying. I hear Jake's question, and I don't agree with you. Okay. And the bottom line is you're talking about an MSP on a particular sector or a particular vertical, right? But what about those MSPs that are being harassed by people they don't even know of? It's like, whether it is a Lenovo, Oracle, or whether it's, mom and pop down the road that are trying to get to that MSP to sell their services to that MSP, how does the MSP deal with that? Because what happens is they fill up your inboxes, like all of our inboxes get filled on a daily basis, right? And now I'm playing the game of filtering what is valid and what is not valid, or what do I want to know or what I don't want to know. How do we deal with that as an MSP?
Okay, I have two things that are coming to mind here. One, if they continue to harass you and you don't want it, you're an MSP, you know how to filter mail. Two, the other way around, because look, the reality is we can't control what other people do, right? We can only control what we do. The other thing that I think is important to start looking at is, as an MSP, should you be managing your inbox? You can hire an assistant to manage your inbox who can filter through that crap and determine, is this what Dave needs or not? If it's not important to Dave, he's never even going to see it, right? So outside of my initial first response, jokingly, I think one of the lines of defense there is to get out of your inbox and have somebody else managing it.
So I agree with those, right? And the filtering and all that stuff. But I think that it speaks to a bunch of different problems, right? So one, if I go back to what you said in the beginning and I narrow, I only have this distinct set of products. But I think for MSPs, one of the things that they need to do is they need to move their client conversation out of email. Because if your client conversation, in other words, if you're talking to your clients on email and you're getting 500 or 600 emails a day that are just spam, right? You're going to miss something important happening to a client. So you need to move your client conversation out of email. We did that through a desktop chat, and there's so many different desktop. Almost every PSA now has a desktop chat that you can move your conversation there so that you're not talking to your clients. And you have to train your clients, right? So you train your clients so that you move the conversation out of email. That's the first thing. The second thing is you don't want to be that harassing vendor, right? Because there's vendor harassment this way, but now you're chasing people, right? And so if you want to create some inbound, the way you do that is you become an expert in something. And then people are looking for you rather than you looking for them, right? The great thing about when you narrow is that then you can build your stack around, we call the stack the factory. So you can build your factory, which are all the tools that you're going to need around your ideal client, right? So I'll give you a perfect example. I have a customer that we used to work with. He's a long time. We kind of, he completed, right? He did everything that he needed to do and everything is working. And one of the things that it was part of his tool stack was a cherry picker truck, because what he worked on was logistics companies with truck yards. And so they put in security systems, access control, GPS tracking for the trucks, everything. So depending on your ideal client, your tool stack will vary from trucks to forklifts to, every single software that you're going to use to protect that client or track their assets or whatever it is. If you're doing golf courses, you need to do tee time software and asset management for golf carts and all that. So there's so many different verticals out there. The narrower you get, then you start to really pick and then you can just filter out everything that's not your set of it that belongs in your stack. You just filter it out and don't look at it at all because it's not in your stack. Right. And then when you have a different problem in your stack, you go find a tool, you replace a tool, you add a tool, and you filter all the other noise out. Now, that applies also when you're out marketing, right? Because then you're providing value rather than chasing people down. The reason why those MSPs are feeling harassed is because the people that are reaching out to them are not providing any value to them. When somebody provides value for you, you don't feel harassed. You feel like, oh, that was good. I'm glad I got that email.
Yeah.
Some real value for me.
I like that a lot. And you kind of were reading my mind over there, Joe, because I was just going to ask, let's flip the script a bit. We're talking about marketing from the MSP to gain new clients. So how, as an MSP, do I not become this harassing person that's telling you, oh, you need to do your patching, you need to do these updates, yada, 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 everything that you hear.
Don't ever talk
you,
about that stuff again, ever. That's how you
what I
do
wanted
that.
to hear. So what do you view as the education piece and other things you need to be doing to enlighten clients, to have them learn, so that it's not that they want your help, but they need your help?
Well, Joe just touched on it, right? You narrow, you
Sorry to
create
interrupt you.
content that then attracts people.
Sorry to
Right, 'cause
interrupt you
when-
guys. You have about 2 minutes left. Yeah.
Cool. So when people come to you, right, then it's a different conversation, right? But you also touched on something too, Jake, where once they become clients, how do you not harass them? And I think that is about understanding your clients, and everybody's a little bit different. How do they prefer to be communicated? The challenge with a lot of the vendors on the MSP side is they're treating every MSP the same, and it's just bam, 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 rather than just like, hey, how can we best communicate with you? How can we serve you best? And when you understand that, then you can cater to that, and you're not going to harass people because you're meeting them how they want to be met.
Yeah, and you know where in the journey they are. And so
Yep.
the content that you're providing is consistent with where they are in the journey. Very often, a lot of the content that MSPs get is top of the funnel awareness content, and they're already like 10 steps down the journey, and the vendor is not a match for where they are on the journey.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate both of your all's insight and thoughts on all these topics that we discussed. Thank you to everyone that joined on and asked questions today. If you would like to reach out to Joe, Tim, or myself, our information is on the LinkedIn post that shared this. My website's at the bottom. You can find both of their information on the website at mspaa.net. If you are an MSP and you're interested in coming to the TBO conference, that's an MSP workshop this October in Denver, please reach out to learn more. And we would love to have you there, as we're going to be doing some kind of discussions similar to this, and just being open and honest with one another and being able to work together. Because like Joe said, there's a lot of small businesses out there, so we don't have to steal it from each other. So Tim, do you have any lasting remarks? And I'm going to let Joe wrap it up with his famous last words.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to say, hey, thanks. I hope people get value from this. And like you said, Jake, if anybody has questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because we'd be happy to help.
Correct.
All right. And from me, just remember that you are loved. Adios, muchachos.
Take care, everyone.